There is something deeply wrong with the drink in your fridge. For thousands of years, beer wasn't a party trick. It wasn't a guilty pleasure, and it certainly wasn't the cause of a beer belly. It was survival. It was medicine. It was liquid bread. In 1380, in a village outside Munich, the average peasant consumed up to a gallon of beer every single day. Men, women, and even children. It provided nearly 40% of their daily caloric intake. These people built cathedrals, survived plagues, and worked 12-hour days in the fields. And they thrived on it. No liver failure epidemic, no obesity crisis. Fast forward to today. You drink 2 beers and feel bloated. You wake up with a headache. You gain weight just looking at a pint. Your grandfather called it a stiff drink, but what you are drinking is a chemical imposter. The medieval peasant knew something about brewing that the modern alcohol industry has spent billions trying to make you forget. So what the hell changed? The answer isn't that you're weak. The answer is that modern beer is not beer. It is an industrialized, filtered, estrogenic sedative designed for shelf life, not human life. Section 1. The modern failure beer. Pick up a can of modern commercial beer. Read the ingredients. Wait, you can't. Because unlike food, alcohol companies aren't legally required to list their ingredients on the can, and they fight hard to keep it that way. If they did, you'd see things like high fructose corn syrup, rice because barley is too expensive, propylene glycol, an antifreeze ingredient used to stabilize foam, and isinglass dried fish bladders used to filter the beer so it looks pretty and clear. Medieval beer was cloudy. It was thick. It was full of suspended particles. Modern beer is filtered to death. To get that crystal clear yellow look, industrial brewers filter out the yeast, the proteins, and the vitamins. They pasteurize it, boiling it a second time to kill any living bacteria so it can sit on a shelf for 12 months. This isn't food. It's dead water spiked with ethanol. Medieval beer had 3 main ingredients: barley, water, and Groot. We'll get to that. Modern industrial beer is a chemistry set designed to get you drunk as cheaply as possible while dehydrating your cells. And here's the kicker. The brewing industry has lobbied for decades to keep ingredient labels off their products. They don't want you to know what's in there, because if you knew, you'd never buy it again. To understand why medieval beer was a superfood, we have to look at how they made it. They didn't just make one strength. They practiced a method called party-gyle brewing. The first run of water through the grain created the strong ale. This was for feasts and celebrations, usually around 6–8% alcohol. But the second run, using the same grain, created small beer. This was the key. Small beer had an alcohol content of just 1% to 2%. It wasn't enough to get you drunk. It was essentially a fermented grain smoothie. Because the water was boiled during brewing, it was free of the parasites and pathogens that lived in the river water. But unlike plain water, it was loaded with electrolytes, carbohydrates, and proteins. It was the original Gatorade. A medieval laborer burned 4,000 calories a day working the fields. He couldn't survive on water alone, he would starve. He survived on small beer. It kept his electrolytes balanced, his energy steady, and his gut microbiome diverse. Because it wasn't pasteurized, it was a live food. It was full of vitamin B12, B6, and niacin. In a time when meat was scarce and expensive, beer was the primary source of B vitamins for the poor. The yeast itself was nutritional gold. Today, alcohol depletes your B vitamins, leaving you tired and foggy-headed. Medieval beer provided them. Do you see the inversion? What was once medicine is now poison. In medieval England, laborers were given a daily ration of 1 gallon of small beer. Monks drank it during fasts because it was considered liquid bread. It didn't break the fast, but it kept them alive. Soldiers marched on it. Sailors survived long voyages on it. This wasn't recreational drinking. This was survival technology. But the biggest difference isn't the grain or the filtration. It's the herbs. Today, 99.9% of beer uses hops. We are told hops are traditional. They aren't. For thousands of years, from ancient Egypt through medieval Europe, beer was made with a mixture of herbs called gruit. Gruit was a proprietary blend. controlled by the local church or lord. It typically included herbs like bog myrtle, yarrow, wild rosemary, and mugwort. These weren't just flavorings, they were medicines. Yarrow is a fever reducer and wound healer. Bog myrtle is an antiseptic and stimulant. Mugwort aids digestion and was used to prevent parasites. Medieval people were micro-dosing medicine with every sip of beer. Groot ales were stimulating. They woke you up. They gave you energy to work. They even had aphrodisiac properties, which is why the church eventually had a problem with them. Hops, on the other hand, are a powerful sedative. Hops contain a compound called 8-prenylnaringenin. It is one of the most potent phytoestrogens known to science. Medieval herbalists knew this. They used hops medicinally to cure insomnia and to lower the libido of young men. When the Protestant Reformation swept Europe in the 1500s, the church pushed for hops to replace gruit. Why? Because gruit ales made people energetic, social, and according to church authorities, morally loose. Hopped beer made them sleepy, docile, and less interested in earthly pleasures. The shift from gruit to hops wasn't about taste. It was about control. You aren't just drinking alcohol. You're drinking a sedative cocktail that disrupts your testosterone and puts you to sleep. Modern studies have confirmed what medieval monks knew. Regular consumption of highly hopped beer increases estrogen activity in men. The beer belly isn't just calories. It's hormonal. Medieval beer fueled a civilization. Modern beer fuels a nap. And just like bread, we cannot ignore the soil. Modern brewing barley is grown in massive monocultures, drenched in glyphosate Roundup. In 2016, German researchers tested the 14 most popular beer brands in Germany. Every single one contained glyphosate. In 2019, American researchers found it in 19 out of 20 American beers and wines tested. You are drinking weed killer. Glyphosate doesn't just kill weeds, it kills the beneficial bacteria in your gut. The very bacteria that medieval beer used to provide and support. It is a complete inversion. Medieval beer built your microbiome. Modern beer destroys it. Medieval beer gave you B vitamins. Modern beer is contaminated with agricultural poison that depletes them. The industrial food system took liquid bread and turned it into liquid poison. They traded nutrition for shelf life. They traded health for profit. They traded thousands of years of brewing wisdom for corporate efficiency. So, why did this happen? The answer is the same as it always is. Money. In the mid-1800s, brewing became industrialized. Large corporations realized they could brew beer faster, cheaper, and ship it farther if they made a few changes. First, use cheaper grains. Barley is expensive. Rice and corn are cheap, so they started cutting barley with adjuncts. Second, use hops exclusively. Groot herbs had to be foraged or grown locally. Hops could be mass-produced and shipped dried. Standardization meant profit. Third, filter and pasteurize everything. A cloudy beer spoils in weeks. A clear pasteurized beer lasts for months on a shelf. Shelf life equals distribution. Distribution equals market dominance. They even ran advertising campaigns convincing people that clear beer was pure and cloudy beer was dirty. It was a lie. The clarity came from removing the nutrition. By the 1980s, 3 companies controlled 90% of the American beer market. They had successfully convinced the public that beer was supposed to be yellow, fizzy, and flavorless. Anything else was weird or craft, but the traditional way, the way that sustained humanity for 5,000 years, was dying. The industrial food system destroyed beer, but you don't have to accept it. So what do? Stop drinking the yellow fizzy water. If the beer is crystal clear and light yellow, it's been stripped of everything valuable. Look for darker ales, unfiltered lagers, and cloudy wheat beers. Look for bottle-conditioned or unfiltered on the label. This means the yeast is still alive in the bottle. You're getting the probiotics, the B vitamins, and the enzymes. This is real beer. Support small local breweries that use traditional methods. Many craft brewers are reviving old recipes, using whole grains and skipping the chemical additives. They're expensive, but they're worth it. If you can find it, seek out Groot ales. They're rare, but they're making a comeback. Brewers in Belgium, Germany, and even the United States are reviving these ancient recipes. They taste completely different. Earthy, herbal, complex, and they don't knock you out like hopped beer does. Or better yet, brew it yourself. Home brewing is easier than you think. You need malt, water, yeast, and optionally hops or herbs. That's it. You can make a simple ale in your kitchen that is healthier, cheaper, and more flavorful than anything you can buy in a store. When you brew at home, you control everything. You use organic grain, you skip the chemicals, you leave the yeast in, you create a living food, not a dead product. The medieval peasant wasn't ignorant. He knew that to survive a hard life, you needed real fuel, not chemical poison. We forgot their wisdom, but it's not too late to remember. For 5,000 years, beer was food, it was hydration, it was medicine, it was culture. It wasn't something you did on Friday night to let loose. It was something you drank every single day to stay alive. Somewhere along the way, we let corporations take that away from us. They turned beer into a vice. They removed the nutrition and added the poison. They made it cheaper, weaker, and more profitable. But you have a choice. Every time you buy a six-pack, you're voting. You're voting for the kind of food system you want to live in. Choose real beer. Choose unfiltered. Choose traditional. Choose life. Because the medieval peasant knew something we've forgotten. If it doesn't nourish you, it's not worth drinking. If this video changed how you think about beer, subscribe for more forgotten history. Next, watch this video on why medieval sleep was better than yours, because the modern world didn't just ruin your food and drink, they ruined your rest too. I'll see you there.